Our first guest is our BYUtv colleague and former Cougar and NFL linebacker, David Nixon, who we spend all kinds of time with. He looks forward to the offseason because then he gets to see us less.
That's right.
But we're not there yet. We got a lot of stuff going on. Nix, welcome back to the show. What a weekend, huh?
What a weekend indeed. Always glad to be on here with you guys. Listen, I'll be honest, I'm still recovering from that loss on Saturday. I feel like that was similar to that Kansas game. It kind of feels like a game you gave away. I mean, I think this Arizona State game was more deserved by them, but going back to that Kansas game, it's a game that I think forever will think that was a game you kind of coughed up and you just gift wrapped to them. But, it is what it is. That's football.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Arizona State one, it's like part of it is poor tackling in the first half, offense just never in a rhythm. That's more on the guys over time. And then they got themselves in such a hole, and we were just talking about, Dave, yeah, they had 3 short fields in the first half. BYU defended one of them, didn't get them points. But the 2 others, they let them go down and score touchdowns. Yeah. And the defense has to, and when short fields, the defense has to have this mindset, and you played on defenses, that would do this. Okay, they got a short field. We cannot give up more than a field goal. And they gave up touchdowns on both. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, it's a mindset that, hey, your offense puts you in a bind. And it is what it is, right? And you got to go out there and defend the field, and you just can't give up touchdowns. And to your point, Blaine, sidebarring a little bit, I look at that onside kick, and I also, by the way, Dillingham mentioned in his postgame that it was supposed to be a squib kick, but they were hoping to hit somebody, but that wasn't designed to be an onside kick.
Right.
I look at that play, and I look at the play against Kansas, the pooch punt. These are plays that happen. Maybe you see them as a fan once every decade. A pooch punt by a quarterback that hits a guy, or an onside kick that actually hits a guy on the front line they're trying to squib. And both times the opposing team recovered, and both times they convert them into touchdowns. Like what type? We talk about the good luck BYU had earlier in the season with beating Oklahoma State and Utah. I mean, I don't know if there's worse luck than both of those plays happening. And not only do they recover on both of them, but then they score touchdowns on both of them. They're terminal turnovers, as we talked about. It's just I've been thinking about that all weekend. Just once a decade, you probably see a pooch punt from a quarterback hit the opposing team and they recover. And maybe once a decade, you see an onside kick that actually goes hard enough that it hits off the receiving team and they recover as well. And then they go down and score a touchdown. It's mind-blowing, actually.
Well, and the BYU player tried to get out of the way, and the ball literally bounced into him.
Yeah.
Like the chance of that is – but again, and I talked to Coach Fowler, and he goes, yeah, that's a really, really rare. But you know what? They still needed to drive half the field, and we let him drive down to get a touchdown, and we needed to limit him to no more than a field goal. And best case scenario, we shut him down and don't let him give him a first down, and then they would have to punt it back to us. Yeah. And it just didn't happen in that first half.
Yeah, and then like I said, it goes back to the mindset. It all goes back to the mindset of defense coming out there and saying, man, we're in a tough position. We're in a tough bind. We got to go stop them. And I'll say this, Arizona State, it doesn't help with Scattaboo. I mean, 147 yards. The guy was just an absolute beast. And he was tough to stop, especially in those third and short situations. I mean, he's just so big that you give him a full head of steam running downhill. Good luck trying to stuff him, for less than a yard gain. So BYU just struggled, and it wasn't because once again they were getting outmatched. It's just you're up against a good running back, and a lot of times BYU roll the safety down the box, and you get a safety on Scattaboo. Like that's not gonna.
Unless you got David Fulcher coming out of the secondary, right?
There's on the stream, Eric has said, "Hey, give Arizona State some credit where they played in the first half." You're right; they played great in the first half, and there was another comment I think from Coug Dude on that. Fortunately, Arizona State passed up 3 field goal attempts, or BYU might not have even had a chance there.
True.
At the end, and they had kicking problems, but that's another point. But Nix, you didn't lose very much when you're at BYU, and then you played in the NFL. And what is it about? Why is it so hard to put a full game together? And I think that's the issue as BYU finished up practice a short time ago, and they're going to be practicing all week, to play 60 minutes instead of 30 or maybe even the last 5. What's holding them back?
Yeah, you probably already touched on it, but you go back to the second half of Kansas, only 3 points. The first half, Arizona State, only 3 points. So in 4 consecutive quarters, you only put up 6 points. Like you're not going to win a lot of football games doing that, right? I mean, you're just not. And so You need more consistency out of the offense. From a defensive guy standpoint, my mentality is, hey, we got to go produce our own points. We got to go get a fumble recovery. We got to get a pick six. We got to do something. Special teams, we've seen special teams come into play this year. So you got to go produce points when your offense isn't. Ultimately, this offense has got to find a way to sustain the energy level throughout the entire 60 minutes. And guys, I would even argue, I've been thinking about this weekend too. I'd argue this team has to find a way to sustain their energy level throughout the season, right? We go back and look at last year, and BYU finished the season on a 5-game losing streak. Mm-hmm. Right now, BYU's on a 2-game losing streak at the end of the season. So it's something that, postseason, Kalani and team will have to think, why is it when we get towards the end of our seasons, we start losing a little bit of steam? And listen, I think quality of opponent comes into play here. Obviously, you got Kansas, who's obviously on a roll, especially with what they did to Colorado. And you got Kansas State, who's on a 3-game win streak. I mean, you got you're playing good teams at the end of the year, but still finding a way to sustain that energy throughout. And I think offensively, just find ways to put up points. Like I went back and charted the plays of that second half compared to the first half offensively. Mm-hmm. In the first half, BYU was very run heavy. So I had that they ran in the first half. They had 14 rushes to 11 passes. Mm-hmm. In the second half, they flipped the script. They went 9 rushes to 27 passes. They decided to air it out in the second half, and it paid dividends.
You guys know what I think, no matter who we play, right?
Throw it.
I'm like, throw the freaking ball.
Throw the ball. And that's what we talked about when we were watching the game together, right, Blaine? Like,
yeah.
If you're not having success running the ball, then just air it out. And quickly you saw that Arizona State was susceptible to the pass, and BYU had success there in the second half. And
Dave, you and I sit and we watch these games together and we take notes to get ready for all of our shows. We've been talking about this for 2 years now. Against the good teams in this league, we feel, all of us unanimously, that you need to score in the mid-30s to win games consistently. Yeah. You can't, and look, this is a game against a good offense and a good defense. Arizona State scores 28. You just get it into the 30s, you win. And not only that, you take pressure off of your defense, because to get into the 30s, you have to sustain some drives, right? And so it's changed. When you were playing and when I was playing, we felt like 24 was the pillar. Like, you tell the defense, you keep it under 24, we'll score over 24, and we'll win. But that's not the case in the Big 12 and in college football today. You have to score more points. Am I crazy for thinking that?
No, listen, we've talked about this in the past. Even from when we played, Blaine, the game's changed. There's no doubt that the game of football has evolved, and it's become more of a passing, scoring league. I mean, a game, I should say. I mean, you look at the NFL and the rules they put in place for defensive pass interference, and defensive contact. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to incentivize points. At the end of the day, football is a game or something of entertainment, right?
Right.
So it's a way for you to go out and watch and clap and say, "Wait, he just took off his head." It's like modern day gladiators, right? And ultimately, you want to put a good product on the field. And it's 10-7 game is not a good product. Nobody wants to watch that. And so the football has evolved to the point where they're trying to incentivize more points, which means you have to pass the ball more, which means you need to score more. And so, yes, back when it was 24 points, I probably got it done. I agree, especially in this conference in the Big 12, you got to score 30+. And right now, this BYU offense is just not doing it. And keep in mind, the stat that jumped out to me today as I was going back and looking at this game, Arizona State had the ball for 10 more minutes than BYU. Time possession killed BYU. And they only had 8 possessions total in this game. We're not counting the last Hail Mary as a possession. They had 8 total possessions throughout the game. And if you don't capitalize and score on those possessions, you're in trouble. Like, good luck trying to keep up with the opposing teams. And that's what Kansas and Arizona State, even though they weren't scoring in bunches, they've limited BYU's possessions, and BYU just couldn't score enough.
And to be clear, if Cam Scadaboo was starting at tailback for BYU, we'd be okay with a little more balance. I'd still want to throw it, but we'd be okay with more balance. Or if Devin Neal was playing running back at BYU. Kansas is very balanced. But right now, BYU has elite level wide receivers and young running backs. Yeah. And so it's even more incentive to have a higher percentage of your play calling be throws.
And I think that a lot of that comes down to game plan and who you're playing, right? I mean, Arizona State, they were susceptible in the back end. We talk about those short to intermediate throws, those digs at like 10 to 15 yards, those were open all game long. Even the intercepted pass, the double slants, you go back and watch that, it hurts because you watch it and Parker Kingston's wide open. The backer went with the running backs. The running back flared to the opposite side. and Parker Kingston opened up that window. He's wide open, but instead they went one window over to, I think it was Chase Roberts, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's who it was intended for, and they picked it off. And so,
we'll see that. We'll see that on AFR.
I think it was mirror slants with Chase and Darius. Mirror slants, yeah.
Now, Boyd on the stream says, high tempo offense wins us more games.
Yeah, and the guys on the chat, Dave, they were arguing about, they were saying, they were
discussing.
Arizona State, they were discussing, not arguing. They discuss on the chat.
We discuss.
They're saying Arizona State could have had 9 more points if they'd kicked field goals. But all the other people in the chat corrected and said, and we talked about this in the pregame, Arizona State had an open tryout for kickers in the middle of the year, and I think the new one's been like 1 for 4. So they didn't kick because they don't kick because they can't kick. And so that's
although he did get his extra points.
He did get his extra points. So, but that's why they went every time.
Former Cougar linebacker, current BYUtv football analyst David Nixon's on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. All right, put your prognosticating hat on here. We already went through the drama that needs to unfold for BYU on Saturday, starting with Arizona State at Arizona at 1:30. Arizona State needs to lose that game. How do you see that one playing out in Tucson?
It's funny. I at my commercial real estate firm, there's a colleague of mine that's a broker, and he's a huge Arizona State fan. He went to Arizona State, and he was emailing me this morning, and we were emailing back and forth about the game. And I said, hey, just help us out, lose this week so we can get in. And he jokingly, he said, listen, you never know with Arizona, that rivalry game, how it's going to go. I think it kind of plays out. And granted, I don't know the history as much as we do, obviously, with BYU-Utah, but it sounds pretty similar to BYU-Utah, where anything can go in those games. And the fact that it's at Arizona, we'll see. We'll see if Arizona can kind of all of a sudden kind of ride the troops and muster the energy to come up with a big upset victory.
They got a quarterback. They got a chance.
And they got receivers, right? And they got the athletes. It's just, can their defense step up to the occasion, rise up?
Yeah. So Steve says Chase wasn't on the field for the interception, but it was mirrored slants on that side, and I think the outside guy was Darius.
I know for a fact that Parker Kingston was on the inside. He was in the slot.
And he was running a slant or an arrow.
And let's say it was Darius who was on the outside.
Darius was on the outside, and I can't remember who was on the inside, but it was a mirror slant route. He tried to throw the outside slant and overthrew it. Yeah. So and was open too. Like, if you get the ball down and in, it's fine.
All right. Scenario number 2, Kansas State is at Iowa State at 5:30. Now, BYU needs to win their game, but Arizona State or Iowa State needs to lose. One of those two needs to lose. Kansas State's at Iowa State in a rivalry game. How do you see that one going?
I don't love the fact that Kansas State has to go on the road. But I'll tell you what, Iowa State, I think everyone on this chat probably watched that Utah-Iowa State game. Rooted for Utah for the first time in their entire lives. This is my first time ever. Just let it be noted.
No, there's some people that say no, they couldn't do it.
I was
rooting for them.
I feel your pain. It was hard. I'll be honest, it was hard. Iowa State's they're not world beaters. They're a beatable team, as we've seen, right? They've tripped up this season. That's the one that obviously I think has a higher probability of happening is Kansas State going there and upsetting Iowa State.
Yeah.
Because that's 9-2 versus 8-3. And Kansas State, when they get it going with Avery Johnson running around and they have a big time running back, they have a chance.
That game will be going on during our pregame show.
So I was going to say, if it all plays out, we should know probably within the end of the first quarter of the BYU game what the result is, right? I mean, you'll know your destiny at that point.
Yeah, and so here's a follow-up to that. Let's say BYU wins, but the things don't work out. Arizona State wins and Iowa State wins. So BYU isn't going to the Big 12 championship game, but they're going to walk off the field Saturday night 10-2 on the year. How do you feel about that?
Mixed feelings, right?
Isn't that crazy that we have mixed feelings where in August we're like, how are we going to get 6?
In the big scheme, we would have jumped up and down for 10-2. We would, in fact, none of us thought that was possible.
And to that point, that's why this mixed feelings, because I'm elated that the fact that they've got to 10 wins. Like that's unbelievable that they will achieve that. I think that the disappointment comes from the 2 losses where they're 2 very winnable games. Once again, we're not talking about West Virginia or Iowa State from last year when BYU was blown off the field. It wasn't even close. The game was over by halftime. we're talking games that BYU should have won, and they had some really bad bounces, as we talked about earlier with the pooch punt and the onside kick. That if BYU recovers those, it's a completely different game.
And they still have a chance to win both at the end, right?
That's the part that will sting, is that BYU had opportunities and could have won those games and control their own destiny. I think that's
12-0
that's a tough thing. That'll be a tough one to swallow in the offseason.
12-0 is not unreasonable. Usually that would be like, that's totally unreasonable. But 12-0 is 2 plays away here.
I just saw a number today, and I can't remember it. Maybe you guys can remember it off the top of your head, or one of our staff here. BYU's only had 10 wins. Like, I'm trying to remember how many seasons in history.
Well, there's only been 4 since 2009.
Yeah, I mean, put that in perspective.
Blaine, you had some incredible seasons, but my last 3 years, we went 11-2, 11-2, 10-3. So that's 06, 07, 08.
4 of my 5, we won 10.
But here's the question. With this,
1 year we won 13. That was kind of nice.
Would this 10-win season trump the other 10 and 11 win seasons in the WAC?
I will admit that we, like in my time, so 81 to 85, we'd never played a schedule like this.
No one has.
Crazy.
No one has.
Yeah.
No. And listen, that SMU win continues to look better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, SMU's playing phenomenal right now.
Yeah,
you know?
we got to give these guys credit. These teams the last 2 years are playing schedules that none of us ever played. No. Those kinds of schedules.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think it goes down. I think, Dave, to your point, I think it goes down as the best 10-win season in history.
So, I guess you probably would be in history.
The Big 12 is a Power 4 team now to win 10 games, 10-2, and think about it. And somebody asked what bowl on the chat, what bowl they would go to if they win and they're 10-2 and they're regular season co-champs, but they don't win the championship, so there's no automatic bid in the college football playoff. What bowl they go to? I haven't even researched that. Maybe I'm just thinking one game at a time. We researched at the beginning of the year, if they could just get to 6 wins, they could get to, we were talking about all these lower level bowls, because none of us even had any inclination that they would go 10-2.
Brett McMurphy today, he doesn't have BYU in the college football playoff anymore, and he doesn't have them go into the Big 12 championship game. But he has BYU projected in the Alamo Bowl against Colorado.
What?
They didn't play Colorado this year.
That's true.
It's a Pac-12 tie-in, right, Blaine? Is that what we talked about?
Yeah. That's interesting.
And the Pac-12
has to field, because they're still bowl obligated. Pac-12 is because of where they came from,
and they don't have enough eligible teams. But how about that one? That would be intriguing.
And here's the thing: I think on a national basis, because Dion and what they did, and let's see if they win. What would their overall record be?
They got to have help. They would be they'd tie for the if they win they'd tie.
Would they be 10-2 overall too, or would they be 9-3 overall?
I think it would be 9-3. I think they have another loss.
For me, it'd be really interesting to see if Shedeur Sanders quarterback plays in that bowl game and who plays. Right?
True. That's a good point.
Especially now that it's gone to 12 playoff teams. Now it's almost watered down the remaining bowls in a way.
Yeah.
Who suits up?
Yeah, you never know. But they're not going to be in. Like the bowls we were talking about at the beginning of the year, of 10-2.
It'll be the richest payout in a bowl game in program history.
And they could get to 11 wins, and then that number of 11-win teams over time also shrinks down in the history of BYU.
Yeah.
So.
But how about play a complete game? Go into whatever, having played a complete game, which hasn't happened for a while. What are your 3 keys for a win on Saturday? What do you got?
Yeah, I think for me, seeing how BYU in this Arizona State game started off slow, for me it's starting fast, and I think that's probably the key for everybody. Is you've got to get off to a fast start and stop letting teams linger around, right? I mean, it's happened to really Kansas. You should have blown Kansas. Should have won by 14 plus.
Yeah, easy.
Right? But you drove the field and you settled for field goals and not touchdowns in that Kansas game. Is there Arizona State game? You emotionally weren't ready, which is mind blowing a little bit, because this was the Super Bowl for BYU this year. You control your own destiny. So I'd say start fast, and then once again, this feels like an ongoing theme too. This isn't something really revolutionary per se, but you got to win the turnover battle.
Yep.
I mean, BYU -1 in the turnover battle against Arizona State, and -1 the turnover battle against Kansas as well.
When they're plus, they rarely lose.
Right.
It's a really simple recipe, honestly. And then my third one is let Jake sling it. I love these running backs. I think they're great. But Jake can sling the rock. And you got very capable wide receivers out there. I say spread it out and do what you did in the second half against Arizona State. Maybe have 15 rushing attempts. BYU in this last game had 23. I say you maybe have 15 total. and you just aired out.
And think about it. Houston's a team that's a big underdog. So they're going to come in and try to shorten the game, which is like, I feel like in the last couple games, BYU's played like an underdog where they're like, we're going to pound the rock. We're going to be slow getting out of the huddle. We're going to use the whole clock. We're going to shorten the game. Fewer possessions for BYU is not a good thing when you have an explosive throwing game, right? And so, but I think Houston will come in here. They're very good defensively. I was just watching them on film last night. This is a good defensive football team. And so they're going to go, let's just run it on offense, possess the ball as long as we can. Let's shorten this game. Let's give BYU fewer possessions. And in doing that, maybe we can be there at the end and win this thing at the end.
Yeah.
And that's not how BYU should play. No. So I give my keys since Dave gave yours. Should we go back and give mine?
You want to?
Yeah, let's do that.
Now, keep in mind, the Houston averages 13.6 points a game. That's last in the Big 12. They're last in scoring offense, total offense, red zone offense. Defense isn't their issue. Offense is a really big issue.
Defensively, they're one of the top teams in the league in total defense. Yep. And so they try to shorten games. So my thing is, stop the quarterback run game. Their number one guy in rush attempts is the quarterback. Force him to be a thrower, right? And then I said this, which is matched up with you, Dave. I said, hit the gas on offense from minute one. Because if you force Houston to play from behind, so if you get them down, then they can't go, hey, let's shorten the game. You're already down 2. Now you got to open it up, and that's not what they're good at, right? And then I said no terminal turnovers. So I feel like Houston can't win unless they get points directly off of turnovers, either pick sixes, scooping scores, or they get a bounce off of a guy's head on a pooch punt on the 2-yard line, or those kinds of terminal turnovers that you and I always talk about, Dave. Those are my three things, and they match up with yours really, really well.
Yeah. So stop run game, terminal turnovers. What was the other one?
I said hit the gas on offense from minute 1. So be aggressive offensively from the first snap on.
I got to write these down.
So you go out and you front run. And when you're a good team, you want to front run, you got a good defense, and they get stops, and you score points. And then the team gets out of what. If BYU had done that against Arizona State wanted to just hammer Cam Scadaboo. If BYU gets out to a 14-point lead, they can't. Now they got to put it on Sam Levitt, who he's too young to carry them. And that's what they should have done last week, but we were plotting in that first half. And so I think hit the gas, no terminal turnovers, and stop that quarterback from running the football, and you're in good shape.
Nix, before we ask you for your favorite 5 Thanksgiving dinner items, since the Saints fired their head coach, your brother-in-law Taysom Hill is now getting the football a lot more. He's running, he's returning, he's throwing, he's catching, he's scoring. He had a career night 2 weeks ago. They had a bye week this last week. How's Taysom doing? And can they? They're not that far back from the Falcons. Can they turn this on and get to the playoffs?
Listen, I've talked to him quite a bit. You never want to see your head coach be fired. Yeah. But, he said the team's rallied. The team's rallied around Coach Riz. He's a special teams coordinator. I actually was with Riz in Miami for only like 3 or 4 weeks during training camp, my second, third year.
Okay.
And he's an interesting guy. He's awesome. He's full of energy. And that's what he's done. He's infused that energy into this team, and they've responded. And I think he's doing what they've asked him. The players have asked him to kind of lighten up the contact. He's lightened up the contact, and he's kept the guys fresh bodies. And, so I think Taysom, they're all pretty happy, 2-0, like you said. Keep in mind, Taysom was coming off, 4 broken ribs. Right. He had to let those heal. So they've kind of been working him in slowly. But now I think he feels pretty good. And man, that last game. Oh, brother. It's almost like you didn't want a bye week if you're Taysom, because you just want to ride that heat and momentum on to the next game. 3 touchdowns. It was an incredible performance, but he's having fun.
Did you see the quote from Tyrann Mathieu today?
No.
Yeah.
Where somebody said, people come up to me and they say, you're the best football player we've ever seen. And then Tyrann said, and I say to them, have you ever seen Taysom Hill play? That's just the ultimate compliment.
Honestly, I was going to say, I think the teammates love Taysom because he's a guy that's run out there on special teams. He's sacrificing his body. You go back to the Chargers game. He hits the punter and they recover a safety, in the end zone on special teams. He's everywhere. He lines up his tight end. He lines up running back. He'll do whatever you ask. And I think guys respect the heck out of that, right? I mean, he's putting his body on the line. He has 4 broken ribs. He's shooting them up, and he's still going out there and playing. Like, what more do you want out of a guy? And then he goes out there and runs for 3 touchdowns and throws a ball as well, throws a pass. I mean, it's as a teammate, you respect it because, as Tyron said, like, I can't do that. I can't go out there and throw the ball. I can't go out there and line up in special teams all the time. Like, it's just, I think everyone just respects the heck out of him.
You know, it's interesting because Puka plays with reckless abandon as well, and Puka and the Rams play at the Saints this weekend, and that'll be a fun matchup. And hopefully Jamal can get back healthy, and then the three of them can get out there and have a Cougar Club meeting.
Yeah,
you know, but Puka too is the body comes second, right? And that's why their teammates love them. That just give it all.
Yep. When you see a guy out there doing that, you just have ultimate respect, and I think that's Taysom. It's fun to have the fans love you, but the best feeling in the world is to have teammates and opponents respect you and just go, that guy is a great player. That's the best thing ever.
He's going to the Hall of Fame. They're going to just find a spot. They may just create a spot.
Yep.
5 questions for Nix is presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies, owned and operated by a BYU alum who's helping the wise guys conquer the world. You can reach Chantal at strategysquare.co. Top 5 Thanksgiving dinner food items for David Nixon, Blaine.
Oh, man. So you want to start with your 5th and get to your 1st, or
let's start with my 5th. We'll work our way up.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5.
Number 5, listen, it's turkey. Okay, turkey.
So the main dish is your 5th favorite thing.
Yeah, listen, I'm more of a steak guy, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Turkey's lean, is good meat for you.
Yeah.
Like it's healthy, so I like turkey.
Okay. What about the tryptophan in it that makes you go to sleep afterwards, though? Is that a real thing? I don't know if that's a real thing.
I think that is a real thing. I think that's
it's got to be. I fall asleep every time.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's not just the Cowboys that put you to sleep.
So turkey's number 5 on the list. What's 4?
So number 4 is going to be green bean casserole. With the little onion toppings they put on there.
Yeah. My sister makes that every year, which I'm up for that. That's good stuff.
Just delicious. You gotta have it.
So does all this stuff has like mushroom soup and all kinds of stuff?
I don't do the mushrooms. No, just leave them like a little. I don't want sweet with my green beans.
Okay, so you just want
to
all that stuff they put on.
That's it. Mushrooms. That's it. Marshmallows. I don't.
You don't want all that. Yeah. So I think they put like cream of mushroom soup in it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure it's healthy anymore, but who cares? It's Thanksgiving.
I thought some people put marshmallows, right? Don't they put that on top?
Some do.
Some do. Some put the marshmallows on top of the sweet potatoes.
Yes, I'm going to say sweet potatoes, which is not my thing.
So or they call it candied yams, which I don't even know what the difference is. But
all right, stay focused.
So number 4 is green bean casserole. Number 3.
A good solid roll. Like I just need some good bread.
Like homemade? Does it have to be homemade?
Gotta be homemade.
Yeah, no one. I think everyone makes them.
Yeah.
They gotta be fluffy. You gotta be able. Hopefully they're like my sister makes some where they're in 3 different. They almost put like 3 little pieces of dough in one little.
Where it's
yeah.
So it's a thing.
Well, like to pull apart. You can pull them apart. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I need to pull them apart so I can put nice butter in there and let it melt.
Nice. Okay. Number 2.
Delicious.
Number 2 is this is number 2 because this tells you a lot about me. I love some mashed potatoes.
Oh, yeah. I love mashed potatoes, too.
And with mashed potatoes, I need the gravy that I can then dip my number 5 turkey into.
Right.
So the roll, I use as my knife, and it just kind of, you just work it all there. And
all right.
I like mashed potatoes and with anything.
Yeah, they're a feel-good food. Yeah.
When somebody says to me, and I'm out to dinner, would you like mashed potatoes or rice with that? I'm like, are you kidding me with that? Like, I want the mashed potatoes. So, okay. So we got turkey 5, green beans 4, a good homemade roll that you can pull apart 3, mashed potatoes and gravy on 2. What's number 1?
Pies.
Oh, you're a dessert guy.
Listen to me. My family, and bless the Nixon family, and my wife has since caught on. We are huge pie people. So each girl, growing up, we would have like 30 to 40 pies.
Yeah.
But remind people, your mom and dad have 100 children.
They would start like 2-3 days before Thanksgiving and start making pies and bring them. Every person had to bring like 2 or 3 pies to the party. I'm one of 10.
Yeah. There you go. I knew it was close to 100. 10.
Yeah.
10 kids. So 12. Yeah. And I'm telling you, if there's a more handsome and beautiful group of kids, I don't know where it is anywhere in the world, because every one of those are every one of the girls are absolutely beautiful, and every one of the boys are handsome and strapping dudes, and I know most of them.
So there's no shortage of pie coming.
Yeah. What's the favorite pie though, Dave?
So I will say this: there's a couple. I will say my wife makes a very mean apple pie that she cooks in a brown bag you get from the grocery store. She puts in a brown bag and puts in the oven. That tells you how interesting their approach is here.
Yeah, that is an interesting approach.
A brown bag apple pie. Never heard of it.
But we went to a friend's house last night for a little pie party.
Yeah.
And the wife, because my wife made it last week for a girls', Thanksgiving thing, Friendsgiving. And the wife told the husband, like, Jesse makes the most amazing pie ever, this apple pie. And so anyway, she's known for it, and it's number one.
Okay.
And then from there, listen, a good pumpkin pie, a good chocolate mousse type pie.
Yeah, pumpkin is good on Thanksgiving.
My sister makes an Oreo pie. Like, I don't care at that point. Just give me any pie.
No respecter of the pie.
Man, I'll eat fruity pies. Give me a raspberry pie. Give me a peach pie. I don't care what it is. I'll eat it.
So we got all kinds of like people are coming in on the chat hard now. It's like hot rolls with butter. Everybody's agreeing with that one, Dave. Everybody's on board with that one. And then Howard says Thanksgiving without green bean casserole, no such thing, right? It's not Thanksgiving.
The staple.
But we got blueberry pie, apple pie, lemon meringue pie, rhubarb pie, and then Lee says my wife's banana cream pie. Also, her apple sauce pie, which I've never heard of. And then Sylvia's saying a Dutch apple pie. Nothing like a Dutch apple pie.
Okay. That's a good lineup.
You can't go wrong. In fact, now I'm starving. I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm even hungry. So thank you guys. I appreciate that.
We'll let you go eat. We're going to see you tomorrow.
For dinner, I had, what do you think I had before I came?
Cereal.
Yeah, I had cereal as usual. I had Cinnamon Life as usual before I came.
Next, we'll see you tomorrow on After Further Review, Saturday on game day in between. We wish you and your family happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, likewise, fellas. We'll see you tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to you and all the viewers. And hey, let's hope for an Arizona win or a Kansas State win.
That's right.
We'll have another Thanksgiving on Sunday if one of those two teams loses.
BYU takes care of business. First and foremost, take care of business.
First and foremost.
That's right.
Thanks, Nick. See you in the morning.
All right, guys. Take care.
That's David Nixon, our colleague at BYUtv. We shoot After Further Review on Tuesday, and it'll be available tomorrow night on the BYUtv app and on ESPN Plus at 5 Mountain Time. And then, of course, we'll all be at LaVelle Edwards Stadium on Saturday night.